A complicated looking design doesn't have to be a complicated pattern. You can use a simple pattern, make a few changes here and there, and then all of a sudden your final garment appears to be complicated in its construction, but it's not. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Isabel Randall. I'm a fashion designer, maker and coach, and I specialize in luxury bespoke women's wear. I launched my own brand label over 17 years ago, and my passion for fashion I've had from a very young age. So today I would like to share with you my 5 tips for keeping a pattern simple, but yet giving that appearance of a really quite complicated design in the final construction of your garment. Okay, so tip number 1, get your ideas out of your head and onto paper. There's something magical about getting your ideas on paper. Just that pen to paper, it connects and it helps you develop your ideas. Tip number 2, choose a pattern that is simple and close to your design idea. It doesn't have to be exactly the same because we can make little changes here and there. So don't try and get too close to it or worry you can't get a pattern that's going to fit, because you can. Tip number 3, color. Color is a clever way to make a design look really intricate or complicated in its construction, but yet you've used a simple pattern. For instance, with this blouse that I have made, chosen the lace, a really smooth, soft lace for the main part of the blouse in this deep orange, burnt orange color, and then a French corded lace, which is a kind of a rougher textile finish for the cuffs, the collar, and the button stand. Now that play of color takes your eye away from the actual pattern and construction and onto the actual design. That's what people see. They see the color, they see the fabric, they see the fit. They don't look at it and go, oh, that's a simple blouse, because it has detail. So tip number 3 is play with color. Tip number 4, play with fabric. Textiles. Now, how can you introduce that to a simple pattern? Again, I've used this lace, well, 2 types of lace for this blouse. You could go for an interesting print. This is the vintage cotton fabric that I've bought that I'm excited to work with as soon as possible. I'd like to make a shirt out of this and then a summer dress. And for me, it's all about the print. This got fabulous print of different size scissors and mannequins, sewing machines, things like that. So I'm definitely going to be a walking advertisement once I make these pieces up. So, you know, it can be the textiles, it can be the print, it can be the style of weave, it can be the weight. You can play with 2 weights of fabric. So yes, tip number 4, textiles. Play with that, because that can again take away from the cut of the garment and draw the eye in on the fabric or the use of fabric and colors. Tip number 5, additions. Now this is how you add to a pattern. As you can see on the stand here, I have half a front, and this is just the basic block, the basic bodice with a waist dart and an underarm dart, round neck. Now for this fabric, first thing I'm making is a shirt, so I'll be adding a button stand onto that. I will probably get rid of the waist dart and just have the underarm dart. But to add to it, to add interest to it without overcomplicating your pattern cutting skills, use rectangles. And now what do I mean by rectangles? You know, you can have a strip of a rectangle that sews around the collar and then hangs loose, and you could do some interesting neckties here, and then that adds a really interesting feature to the neck, whilst still keeping a simple cut shirt. You could also sew extra fabric, i.e. a rectangle, to your shoulder and bring it down the front, have it there, cross it over, tie it at the back. You know, think simple but clever. That is what we're doing here. Or fabric that you sew into the side seams and then you do a nice tie in the front. It flatters the waist and gives that impression of a really nice hourglass figure. You know, you can go from your round neck, you know, if you've just got a basic pattern at home that is that, but you don't want the round neck, you know, you can extend that down and then have your rectangle sewn onto the edge of that and then loose to do a tie. So there's lots of things you can do with just rectangles, and adding them to a simple, basic bodice block can really improve the design and make it look actually quite a complicated construction. So let's recap. 1, ideas down on paper. Get your ideas out the head. We all live in our head. Get it out the head and onto paper. That way you can develop your design further. 2, find a pattern that fits, that is close to your design idea. And be flexible with that. Don't just say, right, this is my design and this is what I'm going to make and I can't find a pattern to fit. Try and balance that. Okay, this is the patterns that are available to me with the pattern cutting skill sets that I have at this moment in time. How can I combine that? How can I make that work for me, right? Keep it easy, keep it fun. We're here to enjoy ourselves. Tip number 3. Choose a colour or colours, really play with that. You know, it takes the eye onto more the design side rather than the construction side. Tip number 4, choose a fabric that is, or fabrics that are interesting, lightweights and heavyweights, or a really detailed weave to it, or really interesting patterns to it. You could even have 2 different types of patterns and then bring those together in panels. So, you know, again, keep that mind flexible with ideas and, you know, options. And then finally, the additions. Play with rectangles. Where can you sew rectangles onto? You know, you could add a piece at the bottom that you have fanned open so it has a really nice drape to it. Again, the collar, or adding it to the seams, side seams, shoulder seams, and having this overlay of fabric that wraps around you, ties at the back, or vice versa, coming from the center back seam even, and then coming around the front. You know, there's lots of ideas there that you can play with. So I hope I've inspired you. I hope you've had maybe some aha moments from what I have said, and you know, are rethinking how you work with your patterns. Remember, you want them to be your friends, not your enemies. So you know, it doesn't have to be complicated, but yet in its appearance at the end, your final piece, your final product can look really intricate and complicated and have that wow factor. So I hope I've inspired you. Please share with me if you have adapted patterns before and got great results, or if from this video you go away and you start to play and see what you come up with. Also, I would love to know if you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please let me know. If there are subjects you would love me to cover, please let me know. And remember, keep creating, keep having fun. Let's make it easy. See you soon.